All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending today's alumni panel, LearningFuze Alumni Panel. I'm Cass. I'm your host. I'm the program and career services manager at LearningFuze. I'm super excited for all of you to get to know our panelists. We initially had 5, but then one of them is out sick. So I definitely also want to encourage you all to stay healthy, especially during these current times. And hopefully we'll hear back from her in the next panel. But today we'll be having Stephen, Arlette, Ken, as well as Natalie today. So I'm super excited. Quick round of applause. A quick note overview before we begin. I do request, if you are currently not talking, please mute yourself, just so we don't have any like surround sound or like any interruptions while our guests are speaking. That would be great. And if you are open and willing to turn on your camera, that would also be very appreciated. Of course, definitely not a requirement. But yeah, this, in terms of a quick overview of what the structure will look like today for the next hour or so. We will have quick introductions of our panelists, and then also I will have specific questions I'm going to ask each of the panelists or all of the panelists, and we will have a Q&A time for the last like half hour or so. So thank you for letting me go through that intro. Also, super quick, if you don't know already, LearningFuze is a coding and data science bootcamp. And so where we help, especially whether you're coming from a tech or non-technical background, we essentially help you equip you with the skills so that you are able to transition into data science or web development, right? So first off, I would like to have Stephen do his quick intro of, what he's currently doing, his background, and also what cohort/program you attended. That would be great. Thank you.
Cool. So hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Chan. I was part of the 220 cohort. So that was February of 2020. And I did the full immersion experience, which was pretty interesting because if you guys notice, in March is when everything went into lockdown. So we had the really unique experience of starting off as like in person every day and then kind of being forced into move on to all remote. Before LearningFuze Bootcamp, I was a UX designer and project manager of a website and app development company. After doing that for a few years, I was like, okay, I can make all these things. I can tell people to code this out. I can design everything, but I myself, I couldn't do anything. I felt like I had all these ideas, but I couldn't do it myself. So I went to LearningFuze Bootcamp. I learned how to build things, all these ideas in my head. And now I am a React engineer at a company called Centerfield in LA.
Awesome, thank you. And then next, Arlette, can you please introduce yourself? So your background, what you're currently doing, and also the program that you attended. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name's Arlette. I attended LearningFuze also in February of 2020, but I attended the part-time program. I was working full-time at the time as a district manager for a protein company. So absolutely nothing to do with tech. But I've always been into tech. I've done websites as a hobby, not knowing that it could be a career. So that's what kind of brought me into LearningFuze. And that's why I'm here.
Awesome, thank you. Ken, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kenneth Cruz. I go by Ken. This is embarrassing, but I don't remember the cohort number, but it was I think it was like 121 of 2021. So it was this year. I attended the full immersion program. Then I am currently a full stack developer at a company called Dre Alliance in Long Beach. Previous experience, I graduated Long Beach with an economics degree, and I worked at All Nippon Airways as pretty much a data entry. I kind of delved into coding or development a little before I actually decided to do the full immersion, but it was basic like HTML, CSS, then of course like Facebook HTML, like way back then. But yeah, that was my only experience before the coding bootcamp.
Awesome. Thank you. Next up, we have Natalie.
Okay. Hi, my name is Natalie. I was in cohort 321. Ken was in 121. He was my senior. So in case he wanted to know, I was full immersion program. So also full immersion online. And before going into coding, I was a student just studying a bunch of different things. I was trying to go into nursing, education, child development, a bunch of things I was studying at a community college. I worked at Panera for 4 years. I babysat for the year 2020. And I worked as like a tutor for 1 month until I got laid off because of the pandemic. So absolutely no background in coding, but I came into it, really loved it, and went through the boot camp. And now I'm a front-end engineer at a company named Health Prize.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. And this first question is going to be for everyone. So I'll just do the same order that I introduced. But why did you choose to pursue a coding bootcamp, specifically like LearningFuze? This one will have Stephen answer first.
All right. So as mentioned before, I was a UI UX designer as well as a project manager for this, really small website and app development company. A lot of things kind of made me really want to pursue code. One was I was already doing a little bit of code when I saw that a lot of my coders were falling behind and they really didn't want to do like change a button blue. We also had an offshore team, and it would be my job to do those really, really small changes or ask the offshore team to do them. So I'd wait there at 6 p.m. When they wake up at 7 a.m., have a Zoom call and say, hey, could you turn this button blue? And then I wake up the next morning, it's the wrong blue. I have to wait till 6 p.m. that night, Zoom call them again, say, hey, it's the wrong blue, can you fix it? And then the next day it's finally done. It took 3 days to change a button blue. So I really wanted to learn HTML and CSS for myself just to help out and get projects, done so that clients don't yell at me, basically. So what really charmed me about LearningFuze is that it was very local to me. I currently in Southern California, but I was seeing these places over in San Francisco, places in New York. I wasn't ready for that. Wasn't ready for that out of SoCal life just yet. Another thing that really interested me is that it was in person at the time. Who could have predicted a global pandemic, So being there, I'm a very social creature. I knew that I'd be able to meet a lot of people, mingle and grow with them. Thankfully, everyone from my cohort was super cool and we built a really great community there. So personally, I chose LearningFuze for the reasons that it was really close by. And also I knew that it'd be in person. Also, to add to that, I had talked to my mentor at the time. Her name is Charlene. Cass knows her, awesome person. I said, Charlene, who was also a UI UX designer at the time, said, I kind of want to pivot to development. Do you have any recommendations? And she said, oh, 3 of my coworkers went to this place called LearningFuze, and now they're all developers. You should message them. I messaged all 3 on LinkedIn. 2 of them replied, and yeah, kind of all happened from there. So many things led to my journey to LearningFuze.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Arlette, how about you? What brought you to LearningFuze?
So in 2019, I finished my business degree, and it was I concentrated in management information technologies. And I took a Python class, and I already had a little bit of HTML experience just as a hobby. So I realized that, hey, this kind of clicks. I like it. I like problem solving. So I actually went to a information class for General Assembly in Santa Monica, which is really far away from where I live. I didn't really like the introductions. I didn't really like the drive. So then I remember researching boot camps near me, and I found several, but LearningFuze and its reviews kind of stood out. So that's what brought me there. So I just wanted to expand a little bit more on the back end, and obviously JavaScript, which I wasn't familiar with at the time. And I joined LearningFuze. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ken, what about you?
What led me to do a coding bootcamp was when I graduated as an econ major because I wanted to become a data analyst. Then when I was looking for the job in the job market and what data analysts used, they were pivoting to SQL, and they're primarily using SQL. So I delved into that, and I was just like, I have no idea what I'm reading. I do not know how the syntax works. And I decided that I wanted to have like a solid understanding of code in general versus like starting from the bottom up compared to starting from the mid and just like forgetting everything from the bottom. So and I kind of wanted to have a job where I'm able to move from job to job, but still have the same skill set. Something like nursing, but not nursing. So there was two boot camps that I actually narrowed it down to, which was Hack Reactor and LearningFuze. I solely went to LearningFuze because their career services was the main priority, and also the tuition price. Like it totally worked in my favor. And I actually did it during the pandemic. So, and I live in Long Beach, so it definitely worked in my favor. That's the reason why I chose LearningFuze, but never regretted it once.
Awesome. Natalie, what about you? Why did you choose LearningFuze?
Well, I actually was very not interested in coding at all. I didn't even know coding was a thing, to be honest, before. But I was talking to a friend, and I was saying, like, I have no idea what I want to do. I've been studying for so long, so many different things. And he was like, just do coding. And I was like, typical, just I'm not smart enough to do it. But I started to self-teach, and I really fell in love with JavaScript. I was studying, like teaching myself JavaScript and just doing like edit algorithm challenges like every single day for fun. But then I thought that that was all that there was to coding. I didn't know there was more outside of algorithm challenges. So my friend told me, he was currently in LearningFuze in the full immersion bootcamp at the time. And he told me to just join the bootcamp. So I would every so often like sit and listen to like his classes while he was taking the class, and I would hear like Uzair and like Tim and Cody, and I was like, oh my gosh, these people are so cool. So I started to look into like the reviews and stuff, and really couldn't find a single bad review. Like it just seemed so crazy. So I just ended up taking the jump. I didn't look into any other boot camps at all. I just took this person's word for it. Did the introduction, I don't remember what it's called, but where you meet with either Bill or Cody. And I was so excited. I think like the others have said, we kind of just didn't look back after that. We went in and it was super fun. And I just felt like I needed structure. I needed guidance on my self-teaching journey because I didn't know what I needed to learn or what I needed to know. So I felt like definitely the staff and also the nature of an accelerated program was exactly what I needed to be the best developer that I could be. So that's how I ended up going to LearningFuze.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just personally also think it's really interesting how all of you have such diverse backgrounds, but also very specific reasons why, not just pursuing coding, and like web development, but then also like why you chose LearningFuze, right? So I just find that personally really fascinating. How, and now, we're all currently at this moment, right? So I really appreciate, having met all of you and being part of your journey, and also continue to be part of that as well. Awesome. And then I know some of our audience members might be wondering, like, what is one piece of advice you'd tell yourself before pursuing a coding bootcamp or even starting the job search? And this is open for any of you.
Yeah,
Steven,
I can
go
try
ahead.
to take that one. So particularly on the job hunt, it is wild, right? It is a strange adventure going on the job hunt. But something I've learned is that you have to be really proactive with it. There's always, passive, applying to jobs, hitting that like easy apply button is a very satisfying feeling, but most of the time it doesn't really do anything. You really have to, open a spreadsheet, really be really proactive, and like message people from LinkedIn, see who your future coworkers might be, and try to network with them. Networking, also a crazy thing. Most of my, job offers so far has come from networking, whether it be from Cass or TJ or from friends of friends of friends, and as well as getting people jobs. It's all just this weird conglomerate of people knowing each other. So it's really tough to like go out and just talk to someone sometimes, but it is a very valuable skill. I'd hate to quote Pitbull, but he said something kind of strangely inspirational, is the job search does feel a lot like luck, right? Where it's like, oh, this guy got his job because he was there at the right place at the right time. Yeah, sure. Everybody gets lucky. A lot of people get jobs by chances, but from Pitbull himself, he said the harder you work, the luckier you get, right? And he probably said Dale after, but yeah, I feel that that's very true. Being active and really putting work into the job search will give you, your returns very well.
And then actually follow-up question to that in terms of networking. I know a lot of people might find it a little bit difficult to actually start the process, especially when you're trying to talk or get to know someone like you have no prior experience with. Do you have any advice or even experience doing so?
Yeah. Sorry, could you say that one more time?
Oh yeah, for sure. Not like I know a lot of people or a lot of students where it's really hard to kind of start the networking process of talking to someone, especially those that they might not have any prior background with. Do you have any advice or even specific experience doing so?
Sure, yeah. So there was this company, Scorpion. I really wanted to work for Scorpion for some reason. I don't know why, but I was trying to be very proactive with them, and I was messaging their front end developers because that's what I was really interested. And then I had this default kind of LinkedIn little message that I would send people and just like change the name every time I sent it out to someone. And I found that to be really helpful. Just going out and just going on LinkedIn and having this kind of idea of saying like, hey, my name is Steven. I really want to work at your company, but I have a few questions. Do you mind if I talk to you, right? A lot of times people on LinkedIn are really nice for some reason. It's crazy. And they usually reply and they say like, hey, yeah, sure. What do you want to know about? that's when you can ask your questions like, oh, how big is your company? What's your day-to-day like? And, you know, that starts the conversation. And then when they answer all your questions, that's when you can say something like, oh, would you like to take a look at my portfolio? And then maybe can start a conversation about that. And then say, hey, could I get like a recommendation from you, right? And that's when you kind of have that like in. Another thing that's really powerful that I personally have not done, but I've heard many stories, is just messaging the recruiters of those companies. Recruiters are trying to help you, right? It's kind of like a symbiotic relationship. So find out which companies you really want to work for. Do a lot of like research on them so that you know that you would be happy there, I suppose. And then just start messaging people on LinkedIn. I didn't really have a chance to go to many of those, what are they called, like job fairs, unfortunately, due to global pandemic. So LinkedIn is where I've done a lot of my networking.
Awesome, thank you. Would anyone else also like to share one piece of advice that you tell yourself before pursuing a coding bootcamp, or like before starting the job search?
Yeah, I could go. I actually like to add on into Steven's little comment about reaching out to the recruiters. I've done that, and yes, it does work. They've actually reached out to me and it's like, oh, thanks for calling, thank you for being interested in it. They definitely look at your resume, and unfortunately during that time I didn't fit what they were looking for, but I was kept into their mind when like something pops up. Then they're like, okay, we'll reach out to him because he obviously wants it. So definitely reach out to recruiters. Then before what was the first question? Advice before pursuing a coding bootcamp?
That is correct.
Number one advice is definitely do not compare yourself to others. I cannot stress that enough. Only comparing yourself with other people will definitely just make you depressed and it'll make you so sad. Everybody codes differently. Everybody takes their time with coding. Like it's all different. Like you could solve a problem 10 different ways, or you could give one problem to 10 different people and there's 10 different ways they could solve it. So do not compare yourself. That's my main advice.
Very solid advice at that. Thank you for sharing. And then actually, Arlette, would you like to speak on what it was like to take the part-time program, what that kind of experience was like?
Yeah, myself, just like everybody else here, it seems we were all stuck at home during COVID. So my experience was at home. Which kind of worked out for me because I was working full time. I drove a lot as a district manager. But the funny thing is that right when I started the part-time position or the part-time program, I was laid off from work. So I had all this time to just focus on coding. But it took me about a year to complete the program. I think had I been working full time, it might have been really hard for me as far as like the workload, but luckily I think it would have been online anyway. But the experience was good. And I think the most notable thing was that we were in class 3 times a week. So I think it was Monday, Wednesday, and Saturdays. So my entire life, even though I was not in the full immersion, I made sure because I wasn't working that I was filling up those green squares on GitHub, that I was coding during the day because I had the time. And also I wanted to find a job when my year completed. So it worked out really well. And as far as the job search, I think kind of going back to what Ken said, don't compare yourself to others. And me not having any experience prior to this, I had no friends in LearningFuze. I don't know anyone in the industry when I finished school. The main thing was to actually keep in touch with Cass, with TJ. I remember having an interview with Bill. That was my network. That was the start of my network. And in fact, prior to this, I had no LinkedIn. I'm super private. I don't like social media. And I remember Cass would message me like every week, oh, you're up to 50 friends on LinkedIn. So it definitely helps. I don't even know what my number is now, but I know it's higher than it was like a year ago. But definitely focus on what the school provides for you. Because as a part-time student, if it wasn't for TJ and Cass, for example, I wouldn't have the software engineering position I have right now, which was a good, foot in the door for me. Because that was my biggest fear is they're going to see I have only retail experience. Okay, I have a degree in something completely different. Am I going to get hired? So it's, as said before, sometimes who you know rather than what you know. So don't be discouraged by that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And actually, Natalie, could you actually tell us and share with us your experience on how you got your current position? Just because I think it's such a unique story.
Sure. Yeah, so I pretty much finished the boot camp, was still working on final project, and had a lot of things that I still need to get done. I wasn't even looking at jobs or anything yet. I wasn't reaching out to anything yet, but I got an email from somebody asking, like saying they were the principal engineer of this company and they wanted to talk to me and basically meet up. And I instantly messaged Cass and I was like, Cass, is this a scam? And Cass got on a Zoom call with me like in 5 minutes. She was like, get on the call with me. And she's like, why do you think this is a scam? And I was like, because why would anyone want to hire me? I've done nothing. Like I'm 2 weeks fresh out of a boot camp. And she was like, okay, well, let's take a look. Like, let's look at their email. Let's look at this. Let's look up the company. And she's like, it looks real. Go ahead and like respond. So I did. I responded and we set up a meeting just to talk for like the next week. And he really liked me. And he said, like, let's go on to our technical interview. Technical interview was really great. It was literally just like what we did at LearningFuze. And I was like, this is awesome. It was like a React assignment. So I just like got on there and did it really quick. Moved on to the next step. And he just said, we want you to meet the CTO just to see if you're a culture fit. And that's something that I think beyond like my tech skills, I don't think I'm an amazing coder, but I do know that I have personality and I knew that was going to help me. So I knew as soon as I was going to meet the CTO, I was like, okay, I'll be good. I can prove myself here. So I met with the CTO and yeah, they offered me a position that week. So it happened really quick. So that's why I think it is really, really important to not compare yourself because, and also the other thing that Stephen mentioned about what's his name, Pitbull, is don't compare yourself, but also know that like if you do happen to get a job kind of quickly, maybe quicker than others, like I got kind of some negative comments back about like, oh, maybe you got it because you're a girl and you're pretty, blah, blah. People literally would tell me that. And I think it's a lot of just, I did work really hard too. I worked really hard for what I did. And I think all of us in the boot camp, we go through a lot too. We work really hard. So, it's the way you work, the amount of effort that you put in, that's what's going to get you luckier. So yes, Pitbull is very true. That's my story. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And actually just a question for all of you. I know all of you have either given back to LearningFuze in terms of the community, whether it's teaching, organizing social events, or even participating in the LFZ alumni events. Can any one of you share why you do so, or why you have decided to kind of contribute back to the community, even though, you found your full-time job?
Well, I recently have gone to a few events where Cass and Johnny were at, even though I already have a position, but I think I do it because I feel lucky and grateful that I found a really good school, because I've heard terrible reviews from other schools. So I want to continue my relationships with, you guys. There's a lot of new alumni or a lot of new students I don't know that I probably should talk to more. But it's just something that I'm working on, is networking more in person, which is something I didn't do during COVID. We couldn't do it, obviously. So that's pretty much why. But I'm also here for any questions anybody has, because I know what it feels like. And in fact, this moment feels kind of surreal to me, because I went to every single one of these when I was looking for a job. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm here. So it's something that I enjoy, and I want to continue that networking. So that's why.
Yeah, awesome. That's so great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Arlette. And there's a specific, there's a reason why, how I choose the panelists. And I especially when it comes to personality, but one, you also maintain contact with me. So I know that you'll respond to my request if I ask you to become a panelist. That's also one of the main things. But I'm definitely grateful to have you all here. So thank you so much for sharing. Would anyone else like to share why they give back to the community?
Yeah, I could go. One of the main reasons was LFZ has done so much for me, and they have changed my career in a matter of months. I would love to pay it forward. They have done so much for me, and the alumni have done so much for me, and I want to turn around and be able to do that for you guys as well. I've been in your position. There was some points where I couldn't sleep because I can't get this to work. There are down points where it's I can't find a job, and I've been through all the ton, or what is it, the downs. I've been through all the downs, and now I'm at the position at the up, and I would love to be able to tell you guys there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It is possible to find a job. It is possible to finish this curriculum. It's because we are the panelists here, and there are some alumni here, that we are living proof that it is possible. So I would love to pay that forward, and we want to be an example and a role model to you guys. That's why I do this.
So touching. And then Johnny said Dela who? Dela Cruz. So all those specific shots. Natalie, would you like to share why you why you contribute back to the community? Especially you attend a majority of the alumni events.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be connected to a community, and especially with people who understand what you're going through, understand just the environment that you're in. So for me, honestly, it was something that I just really genuinely wanted to be a part of, as much as I possibly could, to be around the people who I could just literally be like, oh, are you on final project week? And you can just talk about how difficult it is, or share our stories. Share our experiences that we went through during the boot camp. And I just think that it's a really good thing to have people around you that can help you, so you're not just doing this alone, because I don't think it's possible to get through this thing alone. I mean, you can do it, but I feel like everyone needs somebody to at least relate to. Even at the events that I've been going to, just having somebody where if you've never met them before, but you do have a connection, because you can literally just be like, oh, CSS is so hard. And you just you connect so easily on that topic or anything like that. So for me, I think it's just really, yeah, it's just fun. It's fun. It's important to be connected with everyone. And I'm very distracted by all these messages in the chat. But yeah, that's why I keep in touch. I think it's good to have this community. And LFZ is probably the best community that I have ever seen. Everybody's so close and really willing to help each other out. So I also want to be somebody who people can look to for help or advice when they need it too.
Thank you so much. And then last but not least, Stephen, would you like to tell us why you'd love to contribute back to the community?
All right. It's Tim D here. Tim D is here. I sat near the back row of LFZ, and I overheard a conversation with him and Brett. And I didn't get all of it, but I heard him say, don't just consume. And I was like, what a weird weird saying of just like, oh yeah, you're on your phone all day watching YouTube. You are just kind of consuming everything, right? You kind of have to give back. At least I don't know if that's what Tindy meant, but that's what I took it as. And yeah, I was grateful enough that I got a job as a TA after my time at LearningFuze, and I eventually moved on to be the instructor for the UI UX courses, which was really cool. Teaching was something that I was always really interested in. And as you guys know, I'm a very chit-chatty kind of guy. So it really allowed me to meet a lot of new people. And I had a lot of fun just giving back and taking all the knowledge I gained from LearningFuze and being able to spread that joy to people that are really interested. I remember when I first talked to Cody, awesome guy, one of the best like instructors ever, because he just made coding so fun to me. And I really tried to radiate or kind of match that energy when I was giving back. And yeah, seeing like the faces bright up on people when we made like the meme generator on the JavaScript workshops was a really cool experience.
Thank you. So that concludes for like my specific questions to the panelists. So I will open up to the audience for the questions. You can raise your hand to ask your question live, or you can also put your question in the chat as well. Oh yes, also John did ask Stephen if you ever considered ASMR, and the answer is no. No. Anna, please, what is your question?
Hi, sorry, I'm like a little camera shy, but one of the questions that I wanted to ask like everyone in bootcamp, do you naturally feel the comparison between someone who actually has a bachelor's degree in computer science, you know, and you just, you know, have a 3-month experience doing this very intensive bootcamp? And how do you sort of navigate through that comparison when, you know, HR is comparing like 2 candidates and one, you know, has a degree and one doesn't?
That's a great question. I'll allow any one of our panelists if you'd like to take it up.
I can take it. Yeah, I feel the pressure, but that's natural. Like it's hard because they have a certificate, but what I realize is your strongest piece of resume is your GitHub. And I cannot stress that enough, because even though they have a degree, they do not know how to work in the GitHub field. And that GitHub resume pretty much shows you, this is the work I've done. This is how much I've coded. Like you have hard experience, and experience always triumphs degrees over and over and over and over again. So try to code every day. Those green boxes are money, literally.
That's I like that ending. You just like dropped the mic right there. Quality nuggets of wisdom. Worth its weight in gold.
Yes.
Would anyone else like to elaborate on Ken's answer, or do we also have any other questions?
Yeah, I can elaborate on that, because I work with a lot of engineers that I work at Veris, by the way. I don't know if I even said that, which is now known as West Monroe. So we're a consulting company. We have several employees, several projects going on at once. And like I had a lead engineer who started with me. He's now running his own program right now. And I had him as a mentor, and it turns out he doesn't have a degree at all in anything. And he started 8 years ago, basically just coding on his own. He's actually a bootcamp grad too. So he inspires me because he's the one, just like Ken said, who told me that you could have as many certificates as you want, but if you don't have experience or you don't market yourself on GitHub or LinkedIn, you're not going to get the job. So it's personality and experience. And if you can just get your foot in the door, you know, you might end up somewhere else eventually, but you know, you want to be able to get that experience somewhere. And a degree is not really it's not gonna do it, basically. You need experience.
Thank you so much for touching back on that. And then Sarah asked, now that you guys have experience working as developers and engineers, are there any aspects of a workplace you look for now with future employers that you haven't considered before? I know it's like a lot to think about.
Yeah, I can try to tackle that one. Yeah, so culture is really, I've learned that culture is really important for me. Recently I was given the decision between two different job offers. One is a more established company that's been around since 1950, and it was, you know, it seemed like a really, you know, really good benefits. You know, my son could break a leg and like I'd pay nothing, right? Like it was weird. Like, or this other place that, you know, salary was a little less and benefits weren't as good, but I felt that the culture there just fit me a lot better. So now that, you know, I have been developing for a little while, I think to answer Sarah's question, yeah, culture fit is something I really look into, because, you know, I've only been at my current place for a few months now, but I just couldn't imagine myself working at the other place at the time. Maybe in the future when I have a son that could break his leg, right? But currently for now, I think I made the right choice because of just choosing the right culture.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Like not only are you looking for culture, right, but the company also wants to see how their culture can be established when they onboard a new person, right? Timothy was like, I was gonna ask you have a son. Question mark. Oh my gosh. Would anyone else like to elaborate or answer Sarah's question? If not, we can move on to the next question. Awesome. Okay, so the next question, Lindsay asked, what were some of the most difficult parts of the job search and interviewing, and how did you overcome those challenges? So feel free to answer when you feel like it.
For me, the most difficult were the tech assessments. Every single interview I had, which I think I applied to like 40 positions, and I had 5 interviews, and all 5 of those gave me tech assessments. Those are probably the hardest ones, because although you're learning to code, a lot of these companies kind of require you to know some algorithms. So luckily I was studying those every single day, and it worked in my favor. I used LeetCode, I used Edabit, I went on YouTube and did, you know, whiteboard stuff. And then also whiteboard wizards. I remember with Angel, I did that. So I think those were the hardest for me, because I thought I knew when I left, when I finished the bootcamp, I knew how to code, but in reality, there's more to problem solving than just building a website. So that's one of the things that I think I found the entry to that was pretty high. Like it was, I kept failing the tech assessments until finally it clicked. So definitely focus on those two.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience. That is definitely something to keep in mind, especially once you start the job search and interviewing as well. Would anyone else like to answer the question as well in terms of some of the most difficult parts of the job search or interviewing?
I could touch base on that too. I think the hardest part for finding a job was trying to avoid those easy one-click applications on LinkedIn. Like those are satisfying, but they will get you nowhere. So to combat this, I would give myself like a set of tasks to do like 5 meaningful applications, where a full-fledged like cover letters, full-fledged like resumes, and like putting in your basic information. So I would just start off with 5. Then every day, it was always part of my task. For the interview processes, Oh, my interview was tough. But like what Arlette said, definitely algorithm challenges using leak code. Even if you're doing one problem a day, it's well worth it. There is a difference between building a website and problem solving. And to touch base on my other one about getting GitHub squares, you could just copy paste your leak code over to GitHub and create a repository. Easy peasy, easy square. But yeah, those were probably the most difficult ones.
Very nice. Thank you so much. And the next question, I'll have Natalie start. What were good daily habits that you had during the boot camp and then post boot camp while job searching?
Flashcards were very, very important. I think that that was something that I tried to make a habit. I wasn't always the best at it. I'm sorry, but I did try my best to wake up in the morning early and review all my flashcards before. And I think that helped a lot just because you kind of solidify the things that you went over the day before and also prepare yourself for, receiving new knowledge. And I wouldn't say that I did this all the time, but it's a piece of advice that I heard from my seniors when I was still a junior, was to really make sure that you understand the concepts, not just finishing the assignments. Someone had shared that, like, make sure you go back and actually look at, did I understand why this works and like, how does it work, rather than just saying like, I finished it and I got it approved. And habits during the job search, I didn't build many. I didn't have time to make habits. I feel like that sounds very, I don't know, it sounds weird, but yeah, I didn't really make any habits, but I would kind of, just to touch back on what got me the job, I guess, is Cass told me to ask the interviewer what made them pick me, like what stood out about me that they wanted to reach out to me. And that was actually that my GitHub was filled with green squares, and also that I really advertised myself well on LinkedIn. I had like videos of myself, like a video that I had from LearningFuze, posted that. I like had all my projects on there. So it was more so the fact that I really advertised myself well on GitHub and LinkedIn. So I think that that's a good habit to build while you're job searching, is making sure to be active on social media through LinkedIn, through GitHub, and put yourself out there, because no one knows you code if you don't show that you can code. So that's what I would say.
Those are some wise words. Oh my gosh, that's good. And then what are the best ways to get a feel for the company's culture in the interview process? I am back on the job search after a very bad experience with a company that ended up being very different than how they presented themselves. Would any one of you like to tackle the question?
Yeah, I can try to give it a shot. Oh, Arlette, sorry.
You're good. You're good. You're first.
Yeah, the reason why I, brought it up is because, yeah, I recently answered that question about culture, right? So when I was I was interviewing simultaneously with two companies, and it was stressful, right? Because the place I was talking about first, I had to do maybe like 3 interviews with them. 1, 2, 3. And then I had a 6-hour interview with them where I met 12 different people from their company from all over the world. Like I was like getting interviewed by someone from India, someone from the Philippines, someone from, 20 minutes away from me. And as I was getting interviewed by them, I think just talking with them and then getting a feel with them, and kind of envisioning yourself working with them, you can kind of see, do I fit here, right? Just by the interview process itself. I think I was pretty lucky because I got to talk to 12 different people, so I got a good feel, and not kind of, I don't want to say like one of them, but for a lot of them, I didn't feel like we kind of had the same kind of company culture. Meanwhile, at the other place, I was chatting with them, we were kind of cracking jokes, and then he mentioned like, yeah, I just went Korean barbecue and karaoke with them. And I was like, I love Korean barbecue and karaoke, right? So during the interview process, I'd say you just kind of have to feel it out. Some interview processes take a lot longer. I think that's kind of a sign of the company culture there. Again, the first place that I got the job offer from, that took a span of, I think, 3 months, while the other one that I currently work at took a span of, I think, 3 weeks. So I think that also kind of like shows how things work there. Hopefully that answered your question, or at least helped bring.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing experience with that. And then Arlette, you can answer this question. Aside from your GitHub, would you suggest including other work experience on your resume?
Yeah, definitely. That's something that I asked Cass, I think, several times when I started. And obviously it's because I was fearful that they're going to see retail and I guess how high I got into retail, that they were going to say, well, why do you think you're going to be good in tech, or why is this important to you? And I think it just shows soft skills. It shows, like in my case, for example, that I can work with others because I managed people. I can work as a team or as an individual person. And honestly, one day, maybe my management experience can make me a lead software engineer because I already have that soft skill. So yeah, don't shy away from that. Add it, especially if you have absolutely no experience whatsoever in as far as like engineering goes. It'll show that you at least have experience with people, which at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, and kind of builds up on the people that you work with, the culture that you're looking for. So definitely add that on there.
Very nice. Thank you so much. And then Ken, at what point during the boot camp should you start preparing for technical assessments?
I would say early as possible. I think touching base on Natalie's comment earlier, the difference between knowing a concept and knowing how to use it. Like, of course, like I think in the prep course, they teach you about a for loop. You know how a for loop works, they teach you what a for loop is, but do you know how to use it correctly? Like it's totally different, because you're always going to be applying these concepts even during the curriculum and after. So you really need to know the nitty-gritty stuff. You need to know under the hood. So I would suggest as early as possible, as early as you can.
Very nice. Very good advice. And then Tim D also said the algorithm challenges are due by senior side now. And then Arlette said to overstudy algorithms so that when you get reverse string, it's cake. Very good. And then Johnny said string manipulation 1 through 4. So as you can tell, definitely doesn't hurt to start as early as possible. And then our last question of the night goes to Stephen. Who was your favorite classmate during your time at LFZ, and why was it Johnny?
Okay, awesome. Johnny, I hate you. No, I'm kidding. Johnny's a great guy. Johnny was my favorite person because he works so hard. I always call him the Naruto of our cohort, right? I'm more of the Orochimaru, so yes. How you doing, Johnny? That's all I gotta say.
Thank you so much. And then Sarah's like, who was your favorite TA, Stephen, and why was it not Sarah? I'm dead.
Sarah was my favorite TA because the first thing she said to me was, "Are you okay, Kevin?" And I said, "What the heck? That's not my name." And now look, we're great friends. But yeah, Sarah's great too.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
I second
and
that.
then actually, are all of you open to students or like either current alumni and potential students connecting with all of you on LinkedIn? We'll start with Stephen. Is that a yes or no?
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn. That would be
very nice.
Really cool.
Natalie, yes or no?
Yes.
Arlette, yes or no?
Yes. LinkedIn
Ken,
or Slack.
yes or no?
Yes, you could reach out to me.
Awesome. So there's your answer. Feel free to reach out to all of them via LinkedIn. Do I have permission to slide in the DMs? Well, first, you can send a connection request with a nice note of how you know them. That would be appreciated, I'm sure. And so thank you all so much for attending to our panelists and also our audience. If any of our audience members do have questions for our panelists after, feel free, like I said, to connect with them on LinkedIn with a connection request, and then you can always feel free to ask them any questions there as well. But thank you again so much, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Cass.
I miss you guys.
Thank you.
Miss you, Tim.
We miss you, Tim.
Message